In Genesis chapter 28, verse 10 through 22 will be our foundational text. Genesis 28, 10 through 22. And today I want to speak to you about the power of a name change, how Luz became Bethel. So we're going to talk about Luz becoming Bethel in Genesis 28, 10 through 22. Jacob left Beersheba and went towards Haran. He reached a certain place and spent the night there because the sun had set. He took one of the stones from the place and put it there at his head and laid down in that place. And he dreamed a stairway was set up from the ground, reaching to heaven. And the God's angels were going up and down it. Yahweh was standing there beside them, saying, I am Yahweh, the God of your father Abraham, the God of Isaac. I will give you and your offsprings the land that you are now sleeping on. Your offsprings will be like the dust of the earth, and you will spread out towards the west, the east, the north, and the south. All the people on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. Look, I am with you and will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land, for I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised. When Jacob awoke from his sleep, he said, Surely the Lord is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, What an awesome place this is! This is none other than the house of God, which is the gate of heaven. Early in the morning, Jacob took the stone that was near his head. He set it up as a marker. He poured oil on top of it, and he named the place Bethel, which previously the city was called Luz. And then Jacob made a vow, if God will be with me and watch over me on this journey, and if He provides me with food to eat and clothes to wear, and if I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God. This stone that I have set up as a marker will be God's house, and I will give to you a tenth of all that you give to me. It's kind of amazing what we have here. Jacob is on the run. If you remember, Jacob had fooled his brother and his father. He had taken his brother's birthright because of a cup of soup. Isaac was hungry, comes in, or Isaac's son, Esau's hungry, and he comes in, and he's hungry, and he sees this soup, and remember what happens? He says, I'm about to die of hunger, and Jacob says, well, sell me your birthright, and I'll give you the soup, and he does that. Later on, we find out that Isaac's getting old, the dad who had prayed for these sons, and God had blessed him and his wife with these two boys, and how different they were. He prayed for them, and later on, if you remember, whenever Esau goes out into the woods to go hunting, to fix Dad something to eat, that Jacob sneaks into his tent wearing fake animal skins and had fixed some food and had changed everything about himself to fool his father who was getting old and his eyesight was very poor. He says, give me your blessing, and the father blesses Jacob. And everything, it seems like, is always deceptive, or deception is just always knocking on the door of this family. I mean, this is a very dysfunctional family, it appears like. And so now what we know is that Jacob's mama tells Jacob, because remember that Jacob's her favorite, and she says to her son, she said, look, you need to really get out of here, because I'm afraid your brother is not going to take it very well that you now have the birthright and you now have the blessing, and I'm afraid he's going to kill you. And what good is a birthright and a blessing if you're dead? And so Mama and Jacob, they agree to this. And if you remember what happens, that she tells him it's better to leave, to get out of there. And so he takes off on this journey. His father blesses him, sends him to his uncle, and for him to go and find a wife there. And that's kind of where we're at in this point of Jacob's life. So that kind of gets you up to speed in case you've not been with us. Here what we see is that while he is journeying on this road, he's been traveling in our Bible scripture today. We find out he's been traveling for 2 days. He has no money in his pocket. He has no food with him. The only thing he has is the clothes on his back, because when he had to go, he had to go. He had to get out of town, and he didn't have time to wait. So he leaves, and he's in this desert region, and for 2 days he's been on a journey. He's going 500 miles away from home to protect himself and to get away from his brother and his family. And so for 2 days, he had time to walk, to think, and to ponder about what he had done. And he had done so much that was wrong. But you see, even while he is walking and pondering and thinking, he leaves and he goes there, but God had promised him something while he is there in the desert. God promised, he says, I will give you the land. Your descendants will be many. All the people on earth will be blessed because of you. I will bring you back to the land, and I will not leave you. Do you realize this is the same promise that not only did Jacob get, but how many of you know this sounds familiar? It's the same promise that Abraham got, his granddad, and it's the same promise that who else got? Isaac got. That's why when we say the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, have you ever heard that phrase before? It's talking about Yahweh, meaning the one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who promised these Jewish people, these Hebrew people, he had promised them the land, he promised a blessing, and he said also, those who bless you will be blessed. And so we're part of that. Jacob is there in this desert region, and he thinks that no one is with him, but there is someone with him. Guess who's with him? The presence of the Lord is in that place. You see, Jacob learned that when you're walking with the Lord, any place can be your resting place. For 2 days he journeys, and he finally gets so tired that he sets up a stone. And imagine right now you might complain about your bed and your pillows. I mean, I know for me it might take 2 or 3 pillows. How many of you are like that? That you got to get yourself all situated, and you tossed and turned, and you got to have the fan on even if there's snow on the ground. I mean, you got to have things just right to go to sleep. Now imagine Jacob is out in the desert. He's worried, okay, did my brother follow me? Is he going to kill me? I mean, what's happening? But he's got a rock for a pillow. He's got the ground for his bed, the stars for his view, and he thinks he's all alone. But guess what? God is there. The presence of Almighty is there. And that tells me the first thing in our sermon today is that even when you think you're alone, and even whenever the situation is hard and rough, God is still there. Right now, some of you are sleeping spiritually on the ground and on some hard stone pillows. You toss and turn because of what's going on in your life. But I want to let you know, no matter how many times you toss and turn in bed, no matter how hard the pillow feels, no matter how deserted you feel in your home, you can be in a house full of people but still feel alone. How many understand that? God is still there. And God also can take the place that you're at and bring peace and rest to your life. You see, wherever you are as a child of God, God is there. Now that's kind of amazing to think about. That means that no matter where you are, you can be out in the field with the blueberries and God is there in the blueberry field. Amen? You can be shopping and God's there at the supermarket with you. You can be at home and God is there. You see, Jacob was in a land called Luz, but yet Jesus Christ, we find out it says Yahweh shows up. You see, God will show up in the places that sometimes we least expect it. You see, here what we find out is, if you remember the old hymn in the Bible, or in the song book that's referred to from the Bible, about Jacob's ladder. Jacob has this dream, and it's a ladder, and angels are ascending and descending. What that's an image of is that Jesus is the ladder. The only way to heaven is to get there by Jesus. It's not Buddha. It's not Scientology. It's nothing but Jesus Christ is our ladder to heaven. And if you're trying to get to Jesus through any other way or method, I will say this to you. Your ladder is perched up on the wrong window. Some of you will get that later today. You see, the Lord is our dwelling place. The Lord is our dwelling place. Now, many of you know how much I love to take the Bible and you break down the Hebrew of it. And when you just read the words and you read the names of a town, you might not realize that these towns, these places in the Bible have meaning. They have an actual biblical meaning to the names of the town. Now, the town Luz, L-U-Z, has a Hebrew name and its meaning separation. So, if you're going through a Lutz right now, some of you are going through a separation, maybe separation of job or family or your health, whatever in your life is being separated, taken from you, understand this. You can have a transformation because Lutz, we find out because of the experience Jacob had with God in Lutz. Lutz becomes a new place and he names it what? He names it Bethel. He takes that old hard stone pillar. Come on now, I could preach on this. He takes that old hard stone pillar and he takes and he pours oil on it. Because the Bible talks about later on one of Jacob's descendants, come on, he says he takes it, he anoints my head with oil, my cup runneth over, and surely goodness and mercy are with me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of God forever. Guess where the house of God is? Bethel is a Hebrew word that means, Beth is Hebrew meaning house. If you have a daughter, think about it, Beth means house. And so he has a house, and El means God. So you put it together, come on church, it means what? The house of God. So Lutz meant what? Separation. Come on, y'all didn't forget it that quick. Your mind didn't separate from your body. And so Lutz means separation, but Bethel means house of God. Is there a difference there? Yes. And the difference is what Jacob was willing to call the place he was at. Now, did the rock change? No. Did the ground change? No. Did the sky change and the environment, everything around him change? No. What changed was Jacob. You see, all throughout Jacob's life was all about give me, give me, give me. Jacob wanted what he wanted, no matter if he had to be deceitful and deceitful to get it, he wanted what he wanted. And what we find out here later on, because of Jacob's encounter with God, Jacob later becomes not a giver or a getter, but a giver. He doesn't want just get. His motto now is to give. Jesus can change the character of any person. There's no one right now that you know that cannot be changed by God. You might know somebody that's a pretty sorry person. You might say, Pastor Ken, why are you talking like that? Because I know some sorry people myself. Right? I used to be a sorry person. Right? Well, I didn't need an amen on that one. But, but right, we're all sorry, won't we? Because we're born into sin. Our life was wrong. It was separated from God. And then we come to know Jesus, and we're able to be in Bethel. We're able to be in the house of God. We were separated. Come on. We were separated. We were in Lutz. And now we're in Bethel. You see, whatever your Lutz is can become your Bethel. That's why I want to take, if you say, Pastor, what can I take out of the sermon? My Lutz, my separation, whatever I'm going through, I can rename it and make it my Bethel. You see, in Romans 12:2, this has been a motto of my ministry for so long in doing when I had a radio program and even with the internet program that I do now called Transforming Lives, is Romans 12:2. It says, do not be ye conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your what? Renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. So what happens here in the Scripture is that Jacob, nothing changed around him, but what changed was Jacob. Right? Nothing changed around him except for Jacob. Now, you might have a job that you're at right now and say this, and I wrote this down because I wanted to make sure I got it right. You might get up and go to work tomorrow and say, I hate my job is horrible. Well, what you're doing is you're speaking Lutz. You're saying, my job, you're putting a name on your job. Instead of going to work tomorrow and saying to your coworkers, this job is horrible. How about this? I'm happy to have a job. Folks, I tell you, you might right now say, I don't want to get up and go to work. But there's people right now that would love to have the job you have. Whenever I was cleaning bathrooms as a stock boy at Kmart, I thought I was the best bathroom cleaner, stock shelfer there was. And I told my manager a time, and I don't remember everything my manager had told me, but I told her one time, and one statement has always stood out in my mind. I was 15 years old, and I looked at her, and I said, her name was Miss Bynum. And I said, Miss Bynum, I said, Kmart is lucky to have me. I said, I put the K in Kmart. And she looked at me and she said, you might put the K in Kmart, but I want to let you know you can be replaced. And that's always, I mean, from 15 to right now, that has always stood in my mind. I can be replaced. Amen? And you can be replaced in whatever job you have. So when you're thinking to yourself, oh, how horrible and bad something is, what you're doing is you're being Jacob in Lutz. You need to say, oh, happy days. It changes the way you approach something, the way you think about it, because you have to transform your mind. I've got a close friend. I love him dearly. But he has a job that he's on call every so often. And what it is, it means that if his pager goes off, he's got to go to work. And my friend now, his family will tell you this. He's a good man, good husband, good father. But when he's on call, guess what? You don't want to be around him because he's irritable. He's got a bad personality. He snaps at the least little things. You see, what's happened is that every other week or whenever he's on call, his mind's in Lutz when it needs to be in Bethel. Amen? Amen? Come on now. And so what I'm saying to you is that if you go and decide, okay, I'm in Lutz, you'll be in Lutz. But if you decide, you know what, when I go to my job tomorrow, I'm going to decide that I'm going to be happy. I'm going to decide that I'm going to be blessed. I'm going to decide that I am the head and not the tail. I'm going to decide that I am first and not last. I'm going to decide that God is with me wherever I go, and I'm thankful that I got able to get up and go to a job that maybe I don't like all the time, but I'm thankful I got a job. You see, it's the attitude of renaming the situation, isn't it? Renaming the situation. Maybe you say today, well, Pastor, you just don't know about my family. You're right, I don't know about your family, but I know about mine. And you might say, well, my family, Pastor, is almost like Jacob and Esau. We're a dysfunctional family. Brothers don't speak to brothers. Sisters are mad at one another. Mama don't speak to dad. I mean, how many of you know that there's no family out there that's perfect? Anyone has, all your children are saved, your grandchildren are saved, everybody just gets along. And whenever you come in the house at night, the birds are chirping. It's like one of the old Disney songs, yippee-yay. You're just so happy. Is that what everyone's life is like? No. And anyone says it is, I can tell you, the government probably can tell you different since they're all spying on us. Yeah. Every one of you in here has someone in your family, when they show up for a family reunion, you're probably like, man, I hope they don't get stuck beside me. Every one of us have that. And you say, no, Pastor, I don't have that in my family. Well, then you're that person that everybody don't want to sit beside. You see, you might be naming your family, you might be naming your family dysfunctional, but here's what you need to do. You need to say, instead of saying, I've got a dysfunctional family, I've got a delightful family. I've got a delight. Look at it. And here's the thing I was thinking about. I was recently somewhere, and I looked at this group of people that are part of family and family to be, and I thought to myself, part of me, I said, man, there's some dysfunctional folks in this room. And here's the thing. I thought this also. When I'm preparing for this sermon, I said, here's the thing I could say. Man, isn't it delightful, all these different personalities? Right? It's the way you approach something. If you approach it as being dysfunctional, then you're going to get dysfunction. But if you approach it as being delightful, you can get some delight out of it, right? You can have some fun with it. And so what it is simply by changing the name of something, it's getting what you're expecting out of that place. Let me give you another one. Maybe you say, my church, come on, you know I was going to have to bring up church. I've already talked about your job, talked about your family, but maybe you say this, my church is boring. Oh, my church is boring. I don't want to go to church. And the kids don't want to go to Sunday school. They don't want to do it. But instead of putting the word boring on it, maybe in the morning whenever your family's complaining about, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go to church, I don't want to go to Sunday school, I don't want to do this, that, or the other, say church is not boring. Here's another word you could put in there. Church is beneficial. Some of you are going to get this. Church is, how many of you know church is beneficial? You see, what you've done is that you've changed the name of the situation. You've changed the name of the place. Right? You've changed the name. Now, let's go to you personally. We've talked about your job and your family and your church. Let's talk about you. You might say, Pastor, I am weary right now. I'm just as weary as I can be. I don't know what my decision I'm going to make. I don't know what path to take. I'm taking so many detours in life. I'm weary. You know, when I was preparing and thinking about this sermon, I wrote down this word beside weary. I wrote wonderful. I wrote wonderful. It's wonderful. You know, life, and you just got to come to this realization, life is good. I had a friend that he and his wife went to the zoo recently. And it was funny because I said to his wife whenever they got back, I said, did you leave him where you found him? And I see they're at church today, so I guess she didn't. But it's the way we approach things, isn't it? I mean, it's good, having a good time. And I love to see people have a good time. You know, I do. I love to see husband and wives have a good time. Because the thing is how you approach the situation you're in. You say, well, Pastor Ken, all of that sounds rosy and good, but let's make it real. Okay, let's make it real. Let's make it real. I know life's hard. I mean, come on, let's just make it real, folks. I'm done, okay? I'm done with the sermon. I know life is hard. I know life will throw things at you that you're not expecting. I understand that. I understand you can lose your job tomorrow and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills. I can understand that you come home and find out your spouse has been having an affair and you don't understand why this is happening. I understand when you get a call from the police and they say your child has been arrested for drugs. I understand life throws stuff at us, right? I understand we're living in Lutz at times. Any of you ever lived in the town of Lutz? It might not have been the name, but you've lived in Lutz. What was it? Separation. But I understand this. Greater is He who's in me than is in the world. I understand this, is that my God is able. I understand this, is that wherever I decide to set my rock up and anoint oil on it and say, no matter what this place used to be called, it's going to become the house of God. No matter how bad the marriage is, no matter how bad the job is, no matter how bad things get. And I will tell you something. You think it's bad now? It can get worse. No matter how bad things get, I'm going to do what? I'm still going to trust in God. And he did what? He said, I'm going to believe in God, and he sets up that stone. You might want to do that at work. You might want to take you a little stone and take it to work as a reminder. I say, you know what, if you got a job right now you don't like going to, get you a little stone. You can go to Lowe's or go out in your backyard or wherever and get you a stone and put it in there and maybe even anoint it with oil and say, I'm going to believe right now that what was once Lutz can now be Bethel. That's an amazing thought. Maybe it's at your house. Maybe you need something there on the porch. So when you get ready to walk in the house, instead of walking in with a negative attitude, wives and husbands, listen to me, that you put a stone out there at the front door so when you get ready to walk in the house, you see that stone and it reminds you, okay, wait a minute, I'm not walking into Lutz. I'm not walking into pain and problems. I'm going to walk into Bethel. And no matter what I have to face in here, I'm going to face it with God. Does any of this make sense? You see, because the man who was Jacob, later we're going to find out, you got to come back later to find out the rest of the story. We're going to find out that not only did he change the name of the place he was living, But later on, because of God, his name's going to get changed. I thank God for that. Today, if you're not saved, why not? With a world that is going to hell so quickly, why aren't you saved? With so many distractions, why aren't you leading your children to Jesus Christ? Why aren't you doing what needs to be done? Just yesterday, I told a friend of mine, I said, have you seen the new Coca-Cola commercial? He said, no, I ain't seen the new commercial. And I said, yeah. I said, it's disgusting. I said, new Coca-Cola commercial has this pool boy out there, and I mean, he's ripped. He's got like a six-pack abs. You know what six-pack abs are, right? I mean, it's just, he's got the abs, right? And I went all full out. I don't have six-pack abs. I got the keg. And so he's ripped, and he's cleaning the pool, and this teenage girl was there, and she's goo-goo-eyeing the pool boy, and, she's licking his eyes, and Coca-Cola bottle sitting there. And then you look up, and the camera pans up, and then there's a teenage boy up there goo-goo-eyeing the pool boy. Because that's the society we live in. Then they fight to get to the refrigerator to get a Coca-Cola, to take it to the pool boy. And I thought to myself, and I was telling my friend, I said, what society is doing is they're trying to condition us that sin is normal, and basically what it is they're trying to condition you to live in luts. Right? They're trying to condition you to live in luts. They want you to forget that there's a Bethel, a house of God, because they want you to live in the land of separation. Don't they? When Target allowed the men going into women's bathrooms, and they were all for that. Why? Because it's luts, the land of separation. We need a Bethel. We need the house of God. And we are the house of God. We are the people of God. Amen? All right, Linda, come on up. This altar is not here for looks. Now, why do I say that? Because we find out that Jacob prays. He gives a tenth. He'll give a tenth. He's a giving person. He's doing what he's supposed to do. And he seeks out God in that place. Today, maybe you need to pray, come to the altar and say, Pastor Ken, my job's in Lutz, but tomorrow morning when I go to work, I'm going to call it Bethel. My family's in Lutz, but I'm going to start calling my family in Bethel. My mind, I've got negative folks in my family that when I get around them, it could be the sun's out shining, the birds chirping, but they're going to say something negative. Maybe you're that person. Maybe you say, God, I don't want all this negativity in my life. I want to be out of the land of Lutz into the land of Bethel. It all starts with prayer. It all starts with prayer. There was a reason we didn't cancel church today. You know why? It's because you needed to hear this sermon. Get out of Lutz and get in Bethel. Let's pray.